The men of Ndouma set forth before the sun had fully risen, the soft light of dawn brushing the edges of the world with a golden hue. The air was thick with the scent of wet earth and dew-covered leaves, and the birds, usually so loud and boisterous in their greetings, were eerily quiet. The journey was not an easy one. The forest was dense, and the path, if it could be called a path, was little more than a shadowed trail, winding and twisting in ways that seemed to defy the natural order. Yet, despite the difficulty, there was a sense of purpose in every step, a determination that pushed them forward. For 2 days, they walked deeper into the forest than any of them had dared to go before. The trees towered above them, their ancient roots wrapping like fingers around the earth, and the sounds of the forest, the hum of insects, the rustling of leaves, the distant call of unseen creatures, seemed to grow quieter with each passing step. On the 3rd day, the ground trembled beneath their feet. It was subtle at first, like the vibrations of a distant storm, but then it grew stronger. The leaves on the trees shivered, and the ground shook with a force that made the men stumble. A low, guttural growl echoed through the trees, so deep and thunderous that it seemed to come from the very core of the earth. The gold-backed gorilla had arrived. Standing before them was a creature beyond anything they had imagined. It was not merely an animal, it was a force of nature, a mountain of muscle wrapped in fur that gleamed like gold in the sun. Its eyes, red and fiery, locked onto them with an intensity that made the men's blood run cold. Its roar was like the crack of thunder, shaking the leaves from the trees and causing the very air to vibrate with its power. Yet, in that moment, the men did not flinch. They did not retreat. They did not let fear control them. Ndouma the drummer, whose hands had always been quick and sure on the drum, was the first to act. He raised his hands high and began to drum in a rhythm that echoed through the forest. His beats were sharp, loud, and defiant, the sound of the drums calling the beast to them, a challenge issued with the power of music. The other men followed suit, shouting, clapping their hands, and throwing stones, anything to distract and confuse the creature. It was a risky move, one that could have cost them dearly, but it was their only option. The gorilla charged with the force of a hurricane, its great arms swinging like tree trunks, and with a speed that belied its enormous size. Bola, the yam farmer, was the first to fall. The gorilla grabbed him with one hand, lifting him like a child and throwing him against a tree with terrifying strength. The sound of the impact was sickening. 2 other men, seeing Bola's fate, rushed forward, but they were met with a kick so powerful that it sent them flying through the air, their bodies crashing into the trees like broken branches. Yet, for all the destruction the gorilla wreaked, the men of Ndouma did not give up. They regrouped, broke into smaller groups, each with a plan, each with a purpose. One group, led by Ao the runner, lured the beast away with swift movements, dodging and weaving like dancers in a ritual. Another group climbed the trees, dropping heavy branches and vines in an attempt to slow the creature down, to confuse it. One group dug traps overnight, camouflaging deep pits with leaves and branches, hoping to trick the beast into falling into them. They worked tirelessly, using every trick they knew, every skill they had honed over a lifetime of living in harmony with the land. For 3 long days, they fought the gorilla, and though the creature was powerful, it was not invincible. They used fire to confuse it, lighting torches and waving them in circles around the beast, their flames dancing like spirits in the night. They used water to their advantage, drawing the gorilla toward the river, where the ground was slippery and treacherous. They fashioned spears from sharpened sticks, not to kill, but to weaken, to wear the gorilla down, to guide it toward the trap they had set. Ao, with his incredible speed, darted between the gorilla's massive legs, tying vines around its ankles as he went. Ndouma the potter, using her skill with her hands, threw red ash into the gorilla's eyes, blinding it for a brief moment. Sefu the hunter, though without his bow, climbed onto the gorilla's back, driving a thick stick into its shoulder, causing the creature to howl in pain. The gorilla fought back with a fury that seemed to have no end. It tore through the trees, smashed boulders with its fists, and shattered the earth beneath its feet. Yet, for every man that fell, another took his place, ready to fight with all the strength and courage. The gorilla's strength began to wane. Its roars, once so fierce, grew weaker, and its golden back, once so brilliant, was now streaked with mud and sweat. The men had not defeated the beast through raw strength, but through endurance, through time, and through the power of their unity. They were no longer just individuals, they had become a single force, a single heart beating in unison, a rhythm that could not be broken. On the fifth day, the gorilla was exhausted. It no longer had the strength to fight with the same fury as before. The men, their bodies bruised and battered, saw their opportunity. With the last of their energy, they lured the beast toward the great trap, the pit near the river, where they had dug deep into the earth and covered it with leaves. They baited the gorilla with movement, with fire, drawing it closer and closer to the edge of the trap. And then, with a final, deafening roar, the beast stepped forward, slipped on the slick ground, and fell into the pit. It did not die. They had not come to kill the creature. The men of Ndouma had come to show it that they were not enemies, that they were not there to fight for glory or revenge, but to protect their land, their people, their way of life. They stood around the pit, breathing heavily, their hearts pounding in their chests, but there were no cheers, no cries of victory. There was only silence. The river priestess, who had come to the edge of the pit, looked down into it with solemn eyes. She turned to face the men, her gaze moving over their bruised and bloodied faces. "You have done what even the spirits could not," she said, her voice quiet but filled with awe. "You have tamed the storm without becoming one." They allowed the gorilla to rest in the pit, feeding it and watching over it, until its rage had faded and its eyes no longer burned with the fire of battle. When the creature's fury had turned to stillness, they opened the path back to the mountain. The gorilla, once a force of nature, looked at them one last time, and then, with a final glance, it turned and walked back to the depths of the forest. The people of Ndouma returned to their village, their hearts heavy with the weight of what they had experienced. They did not sing songs of victory, for they had not defeated the gorilla. They did not raise their fists in triumph, for they had not come to conquer. Instead, they sang songs of unity, of strength, of the bond that had held them together in the face of unimaginable danger. The drums beat a new rhythm, one that was not the rhythm of war, but of peace, a peace that had been hard won through the bravery of 100 men who had come together as one. To this day, when the wind passes through the trees of Ndouma, the elders say it carries the breath of those men, not of the gorilla, not of war, but of a people who fought not for glory, but for peace. And though the stories may change over time, the spirit of what they did remains, an echo of unity, courage, and the power of community.